Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ and welcome back to your detailed forecast update for December 5th, 2024. We have a lot to get through today. Showers and storms expected to continue across the far north of Queensland. We're going to be talking about severe thunderstorms down in the southeast of Queensland as well. Heavy rainfall as well, possible from storms into the southern parts of the country. And then we've got tropical low after tropical low after tropical low to talk about offshore from Western Australia, the Northern Territory and parts of Queensland as well. So it's going to be a really busy forecast update today. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get stuck straight into things up in Queensland's far north. Again, the great rainfall up there just continues to pile on, and it is fantastic to see Cairns picking up 84 millimetres overnight. Some great rainfall there, and accumulations up towards 160 millimetres down to Innisfail. So again, the rainfall accumulations are exceeding the forecast by about a factor of 10 pretty much every single day up here, which again is just fantastic to see. Unfortunately though, for the rainfall lovers there and the people that do desperately need the rainfall still out in the Atherton tablelands, the rainfall is going to ease off throughout the course of today. Still though, there will be a couple of showers, especially around this morning and into the early afternoon hours, and a couple of storms also possible later on this afternoon and evening along the coastline. But in terms of the heavy rainfall or the consistent heavy rainfall, it is more or less easing off today. We will see a couple of heavier showers stream through tomorrow by mid-morning and then into the early afternoon hours. In fact, we could have some good falls in the afternoon tomorrow as well. The accumulations around Innisfail and Tully, but potentially exceeding 75 millimetres or so. Cairns probably not going to see more than about 25 millimetres tomorrow afternoon, but in all in all, over the coming couple of days, the rainfall will steadily ease off. Still, there's showers expected here and there this weekend. The rainfall, though, easing off for next week. You can see not much rainfall expected Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it fires up again on Thursday, the 12th of December. We'll see some showers through there. And then more rain expected right throughout the end of next week and then into next weekend. The rainfall really does continue to pile on by the looks of things up there. And then in terms of the more long-range forecast, it does look a little bit uncertain at this time. You can see over in the Gulf of Carpentaria with a tropical low that we'll get to in just a few moments. There's going to be plenty of moisture around, but at this time the forecast does look pretty uncertain for the far north of Queensland beyond about kind of next Thursday or Friday. At this time, the rainfall forecast just very hard to kind of hone in and expect what exactly is going to happen. In short, tonight, a couple of thunderstorms expected here and there. Also out into the more central parts of the Cape York Peninsula around Croydon, Corumba, Normanton, those sort of areas. We're expecting a couple of good thunderstorms out there with some heavy rainfall possible, and those thunderstorms extending up to and over the Queensland Northern Territory border, turning to rainfall at times. In terms of rainfall accumulations over the coming couple of days, they will be quite high, especially into the early parts of this weekend. I mean, you can see here rainfall accumulations up in Queensland's far north on the forecast, still at around that kind of 80 to 90 millimetre mark here, and considering the rainfall has been exceeding the forecast by multiple factors throughout the course of the last couple of days, you could comfortably say that over 150 or 200 millimetres more rainfall is expected. Again, that is going to make some people very, very happy indeed. I'm reading a lot of comments about how over the last 4 or 5 days places have been picking up 250 or 350 millimetres, so a further 100 millimetres or potentially 200 millimetres, especially around the Innisfail and Tully area throughout the rainfall that's going to be coming in tomorrow. We're going to be seeing some great rainfall accumulations for the last week. It's really exciting to see up there that the wet season has finally started. It has been a little bit later than expected, but again, that real rainfall now really starting to pile on, which is really great to see and imagine, again, making a lot of people happy. The Axis G3 forecast calling for slightly more rainfall, especially around the coastline. Considering it is a slightly higher resolution forecast model, what this tells me is that the inland locations are going to be very hit and miss with the rainfall here. Locations closer to the coastline are going to have that high chance of rainfall, and we can infer that between the other forecast models as well. I mean, the Eastern BF calling for a bit of a dull spot further inland from Port Douglas, the Axis G3 calling for that dull spot right along the interior parts of the far north of Queensland, which again means that there's not going to be too much in the way of thunderstorms or convective activity. It's mostly going to be showers streaming in from the coast and impacting the coastal locations and the coastal ranges. Unfortunately, what that means for Atherton, Ravenshaw, then out towards Chillagoe and also up towards Mount Carbine and Laura, the rainfall, the good rainfall for them is pretty much over. Yes, there will still be some showers and the odd storm here and there over the coming couple of days into this weekend, but in terms of really good rainfall that's going to be streaming in from the coastline, those steady showers that we saw over the last couple of days, it looks like that is now beginning to wind down, which is rather unfortunate. Again, they could do with all the rainfall they can get their hands on right now, especially around the Atherton tablelands. The rainfall, though, over the next 14 days is still looking really healthy across Queensland's far north, especially between Cairns and Townsville. Accumulations widespread above 150, up towards about 200 millimetres along some locations, again piping up around around the Ingham area later on next week. And then further up the Cape York Peninsula as well, looking really healthy, as well as a tropical low, which we will get to in just a moment, starts to stew in the Gulf of Carpentaria. But we'll cover that in the tropical part of the forecast at the end of this video. In terms of central and southeastern Queensland, there is stuff to talk about down here, but there's not an awful lot, not at least over the coming couple of days. There will be some nice thunderstorms firing up today and tonight into the central Queensland area, inland from Rockhampton, extending right up towards Mackay, basically, and communities such as Ogmore, maybe even Rockhampton, could get a couple of storms as well. Unfortunately, though, for Gladstone, Agnes Water and Bundaberg, places that do desperately need the rainfall as well, they're going to miss out pretty much completely, and I wouldn't expect anything significant in terms of rainfall for the Capricorn district either tonight. 25mm is on the cards for some locations, depending on the storm that they get, but I would not get your hopes up. I'd basically be saying right now, expect no rainfall, and whatever comes is just a bonus around the Ogmore and Rockhampton area, which, again, is not an ideal thing to say, especially considering that they're in full-blown drought conditions at this time. The rainfall looking better around the Kingaroy and Chinchilla sort of area, especially inland from Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Looks like Brisbane and the Gold Coast, yeah, they have a chance of thunderstorms tonight, especially into the western suburbs of Brisbane, but it doesn't look overly likely. It's going to be over the scenic ribbon north of Toowoomba, where those showers and thunderstorms are, and then extending into the northeast of New South Wales around Narrabri, we could be seeing a couple of thunderstorms there as well, potentially severe ones as well with heavy rainfall. The most likely place for heavy rainfall is going to be around the Chinchilla and Kingaroy area this afternoon. The conditions for thunderstorms, it doesn't look the best, but it also doesn't look bad either. There's going to be enough instability for some good thunderstorms to really take hold, especially into the northeast of New South Wales around Woolgate and Lightning Ridge. Storms there are going to have plenty of instability as well. Humidity value is also not looking too bad. It's just the temperature. There might not be enough evaporation today, especially around the Toowoomba and Kingaroy area. Temperatures into the mid-20s. Day like today, at this time of the year, you'd be expecting kind of high 20s, early 30s for a good outbreak of thunderstorms, and again, it really doesn't look like it's going to materialise. Not the worst news though, but again, could be better for thunderstorms and could be better for thunderstorm lovers. Don't expect anything too crazy this afternoon. Severe thunderstorms do look possible further into this weekend though. You can see here Sunday a couple of thunderstorms you might be able to notice if you've got an eagle eye into the northwestern corner of New South Wales around Burke and Wanari. These thunderstorms are going to swiftly move into the northeastern corner of New South Wales for Sunday afternoon and potentially penetrate into the southeast of Queensland as well. The forecast for Sunday, however, as you can see, has been significantly back down from yesterday. Still though, temperatures into the high 20s, into the early 30s, and even the mid 30s for some locations into the southeastern corner of Queensland around Edges Void, Chinchilla, Kingaroy and Taroom. So again, those temperatures there are going to be warm enough to promote thunderstorm activity. It just looks like on Sunday the thunderstorms are going to be concentrated into the northeastern corner of New South Wales, and a couple of them could be severe with heavy rainfall, damaging winds, and some large hailstones here and there. Monday looking pretty boring, a couple of thunderstorms here and there, and then beyond about Tuesday the forecast just becomes a little bit uncertain. I do want to take a look at this rainfall event that's going to pipe up across the central parts of Queensland and then head further into the southeast and into the northeast of New South Wales. It looks like some really healthy rainfall accumulations are on the cards for the southeast of Queensland, but especially into the northeast of New South Wales next Tuesday or Wednesday, and this has been suggested on the forecast for the last couple of days as well, so this is certainly something I want to take a look at in greater detail in a future forecast update, probably tomorrow, but still the forecast looking a little bit uncertain on this weather event right now. GFS though calling for hardly any rainfall, the Access G3 calling for something relatively similar to the East Mid-West, but again I would take this forecast with a very heavy pinch of salt at this time. Just for fun's sake though, let's take a look at 2-day rainfall accumulations between Tuesday and Wednesday. Some great falls expected between Lismore and Grafton, up to 100mm there, so again could be something to get excited for at this time, especially if you are struggling for a little bit of rainfall, but at this time either I wouldn't also be expecting it. I'd take it with a massive precaution at this time. Now, let's pull it back to today and talk about Victoria and New South Wales. We do have some gnarly thunderstorms expected tomorrow afternoon across parts of New South Wales, Victoria, and also parts of South Australia as well. You can see tomorrow afternoon we're expecting showers and thunderstorms to line the Blue Mountains outside of Cessnock and Newcastle. You can see them inland from the Barrington Tops out here. Typical place for some nice severe thunderstorms to blow up in a couple of the mountain valleys through here, and I would expect some large hailstones and heavy rainfall throughout the course of tomorrow afternoon and evening from potential supercellular activity in this part of New South Wales. In terms of thunderstorms heading into Sydney, doesn't look too likely at this time. Penrith and Blackstone could also get a couple of thunderstorms, especially into the western suburbs, but in terms of storms for the eastern suburbs and for Sydney itself, I wouldn't get your hopes up either. A couple of good storms also expected along the New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia border, extending between Mildura up towards Broken Hill in New South Wales, and a couple of gnarly thunderstorms also possible into South Australia, north of Port Augusta, Whyalla, and then extending up towards Roxby Downs and even up towards Oodendale Coolangatta and Moomba. The thunderstorms are really going to pipe up though on Saturday morning and then into Saturday night, and we were talking about this yesterday. Some very nice thunderstorms are expected to materialise in this area of New South Wales, extending between Tottenham through Wagga Wagga and then down towards Albury on the Victorian side of things. Just through this area here, as these storms get themselves backed up into the mountains, we're going to be seeing some very heavy rainfall. And I would not be surprised if we were waking up to the 9 a.m. on Sunday morning with rainfall accumulations well in excess of 100 millimetres, just from these slow-moving, high precipitation storm modes that are going to be producing those high rainfall accumulations. Storms also extending north of Sydney through Newcastle up towards Taree and Kempsey, but the thunderstorms down here have all of my attention around the West Wyalong and Wagga Wagga area. It's going to be very interesting indeed to see what happens. And these thunderstorms, they're not evening thunderstorms either. They fire up from about midnight Friday night into Saturday morning, right through Saturday as well. They really get themselves going into the afternoon hours of Saturday, of course, but they continue right through Saturday and then into very early Sunday morning as well. This will be very interesting to see tomorrow when we can finally get a convective forecast model to kind of take hold of this forecast here. But what I think you should all know in this area of New South Wales, some very, very good thunderstorms look likely at this time. I mean, you can see it here on the instability forecast. There's so much available potential energy for these thunderstorms to take a hold of. Again, humidity values through the roof and right through the mid-levels as well, up to the 3,000 metre mark. There's plenty of humidity to go around, plenty of moisture in the atmosphere for these thunderstorms to make the most of. And again, those temperatures are going to be sky high both tomorrow and Saturday afternoon across parts of New South Wales, as a bit of a low pressure system develops and bring those hot temperatures down from South Australia and Queensland into the northern parts of New South Wales, and then by extension warming up further down into Victoria as well, and just in general warming up today and tomorrow across much of New South Wales and Victoria. So it might be a good opportunity to get out to the beach later on tomorrow night and into the weekend as well. So again, interesting stuff here on the weather forecast. Rainfall accumulations don't really do this thunderstorm event justice. I mean, there's going to be plenty of rainfall to go around, but just between Saturday and Sunday, the rainfall accumulations on the forecast suggested up to about 100 millimetres, but we don't have a convective forecast here, and as from all thunderstorms, rainfall notoriously unpredictable, and it's very difficult to make a forecast for one location at one point in time. This forecast here, you can think of it as more of a heads up of what thunderstorms are coming for what general area. I'll be able to answer the question of what thunderstorms are expected exactly where pretty much on Saturday morning, but until then there's not really much that anyone can predict with reasonable accuracy or whatnot, just considering the fact that these are thunderstorms at the end of the day and are notoriously unpredictable. Certainly some interesting stuff, and like I said earlier, I cannot wait to see what the convective models make of it here, especially the access, the high-resolution convective model access. I can't wait to see what that makes of it across New South Wales. It'll be very interesting to see indeed. I imagine some dramatic thunderstorms are going to blow up on Saturday. Any questions or comments as well, please do let me know in the comment section down below, and I look forward to getting back to all of you throughout the course of today. Things warming up across the southwest of Western Australia as well. In fact, it gets really warm this weekend up into the Pilbara region, 44 for both Marble Bar and Newman. Certainly the first real stretch of warm temperatures. But take a look at the temperatures here. They really do a good job of warming themselves up throughout the course of next week, especially for the southwest. 32 for Perth on Monday, and then as this west coast trough slowly materialises, 34 on Tuesday. Now, Wednesday we were saying is a hot day a couple of days ago. Still quite a warm day, 37 for Perth. And then Thursday looks to be the real hot day here, at least 38 degrees, maybe a little bit warmer around Perth, certainly up towards 40 into the eastern suburbs, and then further inland out towards Northam and York, up to about 41 there. So it'll be very interesting to see how warm things actually get there. And as with all warm days that we see across the southwest, some thunderstorms are expected to blow up as well. Those temperatures remaining warm as well further inland throughout Friday. You can see slightly cooler for Perth, 36, but up towards 42 or 43 further inland into the wheat belt. And you might be able to see this tropical low streaming down the coastline. And again, we will get to that in just a few moments here. This will bring a bit of reprieve to the temperatures here, but we're likely to still see a strong tropical low offshore from Western Australia here, bring plenty of rainfall ashore if this forecast does materialise. And again, take this with a very heavy pinch of salt, because again, this is a very unlikely situation to happen, and it isn't reciprocated between the other forecast models either. But it looks like our heat wave across Perth might be broken by this tropical low, either coming down the coastline bringing much needed rainfall to the southwest of Western Australia like a tropical low would, which again I'm not calling for at any point at this time, or from this tropical low moving, or the more likely situation where this tropical low just pushes the west coast trough further inland, moves the hot weather out towards the goldfields and whatnot. Again, we will have to wait and see on this. It's still a week away, but get excited, Perth, because you might be seeing something in the way of some heavy rainfall throughout the course of next week if this tropical low does materialise how the East Weather forecast is saying. I've teased everyone long enough about the tropical low section of this video, so let's just get stuck straight into things offshore from Western Australia. We are expecting a tropical low or a weak tropical tropical cyclone to develop at some point next week. So let's take a look at the forecast right now and what it is suggesting. And this tropical low has two opportunities for life. One of them is to track close to Western Australia, and as such, which the forecast is seeing right now, subsequently will be a weaker system, but still bringing some rain to the Pilbara region, also the Kimberley region as well, from showers and thunderstorms through Tuesday and Wednesday, reaching peak intensity late Wednesday evening into early Thursday morning. It was probably about a Category 2 strength tropical cyclone offshore from Western Australia. You can see it's tracking within about 300 or 400 kilometres from Western Australia, probably a little bit further offshore actually, and you can see there it rapidly weakens through Thursday and Friday and then steams off down to the southwest of Western Australia, bringing some showers to the southwest on Friday and Saturday. Again, the forecast for that very uncertain at this time, and it is a first edition on this forecast here, so we will have a look at what the forecast is saying tomorrow. The section option that this storm has for life is to develop further offshore from Western Australia. Here you can see it well offshore from the Kimberley region, further up towards Bali and Indonesia, and this system here slowly developing through Sunday, Monday and Tuesday before it gets itself together by around Wednesday and then steams off towards the east here and merges with a system that's going to be around the Cocos Keeling Islands. This system here going to be much stronger, but of course much further away from Western Australia, and as such there's going to be no pull down to the southwest, and we won't see this scenario pan out for a tropical cyclone or a tropical low impact for the southwest of Western Australia. You can see that system there probably getting to about Category 3 status on about Thursday or Friday offshore from Western Australia as a severe tropical cyclone, and again no real impacts to land. I want to tell you right now why the first scenario is more likely. Not only is the Bureau of Meteorology actually calling for the first scenario at this time, just considering where they're calling for this tropical low to develop, but the system up here is going to have multiple centers. If it does develop closer to Indonesia, it's going to be much more kind of tropical and messy with much more convection. It's going to struggle to organize a little bit more, and either in that way, if we do get a system going, it will likely be a strong system, but if we don't, it's also more likely that the system just completely kicks the bucket and just becomes a bunch of clouds and mess. But this system down here, if we do see a tropical low develop closer to Western Australia, we'll have a much easier life, and I also just feel like that's going to happen. The Eastern Blue Wave forecast has been very consistent with that forecast over the past week or so, so I do believe that it is more likely that we do see a system offshore from Western Australia and then heading down in the fashion that the Eastern Blue Wave forecast was just suggesting. Again, any questions or comments on this, please let me know in the comment section down below, and it's still well over a week away for the southwest of Western Australia. More of a heads up or something to keep in the back of your head for a forecast, as opposed to this is actually going to happen. It's still about 10 days away at this time, so we will very much wait and see over the coming couple of days what actually materializes on the forecast, and I'll be able to give you a definite answer by around Tuesday or Wednesday on what is expected for the southwest. I know that's not a really good job as a forecaster here, but that is the best that I can do just considering the uncertainty with this system. This system here, if it does become a tropical cyclone, it'll also pick up the name of Tropical Cyclone Sean, the next name on the Australian naming list. Certainly some interesting stuff up there. And I just want to flick it back to the GFS forecast model. For a couple of weeks now, it's been suggesting what we'd call a high energy phase across the northern parts of Western Australia, where we're getting lots of tropical lows, lots of thunderstorms, and lots of tropical activity in general. And you can see it here, it wraps up another tropical cyclone offshore from the Kimberley region just a few days after what will become Tropical Cyclone Sean if it does develop by around the 16th and 17th of December here, right in time for Christmas, and then this system becomes trouble. A very powerful tropical cyclone expected to kind of cut it really close to the West Australian coastline here. You can see it right now, probably at about Category 4, potentially even Category 5 status on the Australian scale here, offshore from Broome in very close proximity, and I'd compare this to Tropical Cyclone Olga or Tropical Cyclone Veronica in the sense of its rapid intensification on the forecast. Now, I've probably just really scared a lot of people up here. A cyclone for Christmas? No, thank you. And I would just like to take your minds at ease and say that the GFS is notoriously unreliable beyond the kind of 10-day forecast period for tropical cyclones, especially around the Australian region. I don't think it's made an accurate prediction beyond 10 days in the Australian region for the past 12 months. It is a really unreliable forecast model to use for tropical activity. It has an immense bias to wrapping up intense tropical cyclones for very warm waters, which Western Australia does have. Let's face it, the conditions are going to be very good if the system does pack itself up there. But again, I would take this forecast with an extremely heavy pinch of salt, not just a very heavy pinch of salt, but an extremely heavy pinch of salt. The GFS can make some wacky stuff in the 10-day to 14-day forecast period, so again, I would not be betting the farm on this actually happening up here. Just an interesting thing to look at, and you can see other forecast models calling for squat at the 14-day mark. And then also into the Gulf of Carpentaria, because it's going to be business up there as well. We're expecting a tropical low to develop offshore from Arnhem Land or along Arnhem Land throughout the course of next week as well, and that's just going to bring a bunch of tropical rainfall to the northern parts of the Northern Territory and also into the northern parts of the Cape York Peninsula. Plenty of rainfall expected to go around up here, and you can see it really doesn't wrap itself up with this tropical low here. If it does get itself going at some point, it it looks like it could bring some gale force winds to the western half of the Cape York Peninsula and some very heavy rainfall as well to not only the northeastern corner of Arnhem Land and the Northern Territory as a whole, but right along the Gulf of Carpentaria coastline, some heavy rainfall does look possible. And in terms of 10-day rainfall accumulations here from Tuesday onwards through Tuesday the 10th through to Tuesday the 19th Thursday the 12th to Thursday the 19th of December, you can see 7-day rainfall accumulations up here in excess of 200 or 300 millimeters for a couple of locations. No one expecting about 200 millimeters as the rainfall pipes up there, and then along the Cape York Peninsula as well between 100 and 150 millimeters there. So again, some great rainfall does look to be on the forecast up there, and that does also extend over into the far northern sections of Queensland, but it's just a little bit uncertain at this time. It has been on the forecast for the last couple of days, so again, I would expect something to develop across the northern parts of the Northern Territory, even into the Gulf of Carpentaria, and considering it's also reciprocated between other forecast models as well, I don't think it's entirely unlikely at this time, but still a lot of stuff has to go right for this system to properly develop into a tropical low, let alone a tropical cyclone, which doesn't look likely at this time for Queensland and the Northern Territory. And I would just like to wrap that up by saying that Queensland and the Northern Territory have very low chances, close to 0%, I mean maybe 1 or 2% of receiving tropical cyclone conditions in the next 2 weeks, and most likely from that system up in the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's very unlikely at this time, so there's no point in stressing about cyclone activity over in Queensland or the Northern Territory in the near future. Western Australia as well, still a very low chance, probably about a 5% chance of tropical cyclone winds in the next 10 days as well. That chance probably does increase closer towards Christmas, just with that other system on the forecast from the GFS. But again, for all communities around Australia, the chance of receiving tropical cyclones in the next couple of weeks, just considering the forecast as well, is still very, very low. And you bet when those chances do increase, I'll be the first to let you know. Anyways, this video's gone for long enough, that's for sure. If I have made you sick of my voice, I do apologize in advance. But if you've got any feedback or you'd like to ask a question or leave a comment in the comment section down below, please do feel free, and I'll get back to as many people as I can throughout the course of today. Thank you so much for watching the video to this point. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. Again, I could not run this show without them, and their support is much appreciated. But that is all from me today, and I will catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.